Hello everyone, and welcome back. Tonight, we're going somewhere quieter than the ocean, farther than the moon, and closer than your own breath. We're exploring dreams, those shifting landscapes that unfold behind closed eyes, where memory, emotion, and imagination quietly rearrange themselves while the body rests. Before we begin, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from tonight. Somewhere across different time zones and darkened rooms, other minds are preparing to drift into the same mysterious territory we all enter when sleep deepens. If you enjoy slow, thoughtful explorations of science and the hidden systems of the human mind, feel free to subscribe. Now take a gentle breath, let your shoulders soften, and imagine the moment when waking thought begins to dissolve. Dreams begin long before you realize you are dreaming. As the brain moves through stages of sleep, electrical activity shifts, gradually transitioning from steady waking rhythms into slower waves that signal the body's descent into rest. Sleep unfolds in cycles lasting roughly 90 minutes each. Within those cycles, the brain alternates between non-REM sleep, where thoughts are fragmented and quiet, and REM sleep, rapid eye movement, where vivid dreams most often take shape. During REM sleep, the brain becomes surprisingly active. In some regions, activity resembles waking consciousness, especially in areas tied to emotion and imagery, such as the amygdala and visual cortex. At the same time, parts of the prefrontal cortex responsible for logical reasoning and self-awareness become less active. This imbalance may explain why dreams feel immersive yet illogical, intense yet unquestioned while they unfold. Your eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids during REM sleep, tracing imagined scenes. Muscles throughout the body, however, are temporarily paralyzed in a state known as atonia, preventing physical enactment of dream movements. Without this natural paralysis, the body might attempt to act out dreams. In rare sleep disorders where REM atonia fails, individuals may move, speak, or gesture as dream narratives play out internally. Inside the dreaming brain, memory fragments combine in unusual ways. Faces blur into one another, locations merge, timelines collapse. The mind weaves experiences together into symbolic scenes that feel coherent even when they defy waking logic. Dreams often feel intensely emotional because the limbic system remains highly active during REM sleep. The amygdala, which processes fear, excitement, and attachment, lights up more strongly than it does during many waking experiences, infusing dream imagery with heightened feeling. At the same time, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, responsible for critical thinking and self-reflection, becomes quieter. This imbalance allows emotion to dominate while logical skepticism fades, making impossible events feel entirely believable within the dream. This may explain why we can fly without question, speak to people long gone, or move through shifting landscapes without pause. The dreaming mind accepts what waking consciousness would challenge, because the neural circuits for doubt are temporarily subdued. Memory plays a central role in dream construction. Rather than replaying events exactly as they occurred, the brain extracts fragments, faces, rooms, sensations, and rearranges them into new combinations shaped by recent experience and older memory traces. Interestingly, the hippocampus, which helps consolidate memories, communicates with the cortex during sleep. Some scientists believe dreams may reflect this process of integration, as the brain reorganizes information gathered throughout the day. This reorganization may help strengthen important memories while discarding irrelevant details. In this sense, dreaming could serve as a form of emotional and cognitive housekeeping, gently sorting experiences into long-term storage. Yet most dreams fade quickly upon waking. As consciousness returns, levels of certain neurotransmitters, such as norepinephrines, shifting the brain into alert mode and disrupting the fragile neural patterns that sustain dream recall. Without deliberate effort, dream memories dissolve within minutes. They are constructed in a neurochemical environment different from waking life, making them harder to encode into lasting memory unless actively rehearsed. Lucid dreaming occurs when awareness returns partially during REM sleep. In these rare moments, individuals recognize that they are dreaming while remaining within the dream world, sometimes gaining the ability to influence events. Brain imaging studies suggest that during lucid dreaming, parts of the prefrontal cortex reactivate slightly, restoring a degree of self-awareness without fully awakening the sleeper, blending imagination with conscious recognition. Nightmares emerge from the same dreaming architecture, but they are shaped more heavily by the amygdala's activation. During REM sleep, emotional centers remain alert, and when stress or unresolved fear lingers from waking life, those emotions can surface in symbolic, amplified forms. In a nightmare, the body remains paralyzed, yet the heart may race and breathing may quicken. The autonomic nervous system responds as though the imagined danger were real, even while the muscles stay still beneath the surface of sleep. Some researchers believe nightmares serve a purpose. By simulating threatening situations in a safe environment, the brain may rehearse emotional responses, strengthening resilience and preparing for potential future stress. Recurring dreams often follow a similar pattern. When emotional conflicts remain unresolved, the mind may return to the same imagery repeatedly, adjusting details but preserving the core theme as if attempting to process something unfinished. Common motifs such as falling, being chased, or arriving unprepared are shared across cultures. These themes may reflect universal anxieties tied to vulnerability, loss of control, or social evaluation. The sensation of falling in a dream can feel startlingly physical. As sleep deepens, muscle tone relaxes dramatically, and the brain occasionally misinterprets this shift as a sudden drop, producing the vivid image of descent. This experience, sometimes accompanied by a sudden muscle jerk, known as a hypnic jerk, bridges the boundary between wakefulness and sleep. It is a reminder that dreaming does not begin abruptly, but gradually overlaps with waking awareness. Some dreams feel prophetic not because they predict the future, but because the brain is constantly modeling possibilities. During sleep, it simulates outcomes based on patterns and experiences, and occasionally, those simulations resemble future events. When coincidence aligns with a remembered dream, the mind links the two, reinforcing the illusion of foresight. In reality, dreaming reflects probability and imagination woven together, not supernatural prediction. Even the strange distortion of time within dreams reveals something profound. A dream that feels like hours may unfold within minutes of ME activity, demonstrating how differently the sleeping brain constructs narrative and duration. Sometimes we wake suddenly in the middle of a dream, heart beating slightly faster, the final scene dissolving like mist. This often happens when REM sleep ends abruptly and consciousness rises before the narrative fully completes, leaving fragments hovering at the edge of awareness. In those moments, dream images can feel unusually vivid because the brain transitions quickly from the MEM state into waking alertness. The emotional centers remain active for a few seconds longer, imprinting the final sensations more strongly than the rest of the dream. Sleep paralysis occurs when this boundary between REM and wakefulness misaligns. The mind becomes conscious while the body remains in its protective state of atonia, unable to move even though awareness has returned. During sleep paralysis, dream imagery may spill into waking perception. Because visual and emotional circuits are still partially engaged, individuals sometimes report shadowy figures, pressure on the chest, or a sense of presence. These experiences can feel deeply real, yet they arise from the same neural systems that generate dreams. The brain, momentarily suspended between worlds, blends imagination with perception before muscle control gradually returns. Dream imagery itself is constructed primarily within the visual cortex and associative regions of the brain. Even with closed eyes and no external light, These areas activate as though responding to real sensory input. The colors, faces, and landscapes you see while dreaming are assembled from stored memory. The brain draws from a vast internal archive, recombining details into scenes that feel spontaneous but are built from experience. Interestingly, the primary visual cortex remains less active than higher visual areas during REM sleep. This may explain why dream imagery sometimes feels vivid, yet slightly distorted, rich in emotion, but less precise in detail. Animals also appear to dream. Studies of sleeping dogs and cats show patterns of brain activity similar to human REM sleep, and gentle movements beneath closed eyelids suggest that they too experience internal narratives. In laboratory studies, rats navigating mazes during the day display similar neural firing patterns during sleep, as though replaying their journeys. This replay may help consolidate spatial memory, strengthening learning through nocturnal rehearsal. Throughout history, dreams have quietly shaped discovery. The chemist Auguste Kekule famously envisioned the structure of the benzene molecule as a snake biting its own tail while drifting between waking and sleep, a symbolic image that later informed molecular theory. Composer Paul McCartney once described waking with the melody of yesterday, fully formed in his mind, unsure whether he had heard it before or if it had emerged entirely from dream logic woven during sleep. In dreams, the brain loosens rigid associations. The prefrontal cortex, which enforces linear reasoning, becomes less dominant, allowing distant ideas to connect in unusual ways, often forming creative solutions inaccessible during waking focus. Neuroscientists describe this as hyperassociative thinking. Memory fragments that rarely interact during the day are free to combine, producing symbolic narratives that sometimes reveal insight beneath their surreal surface. REM sleep also appears closely linked to emotional regulation. During this stage, stress-related neurotransmitters such as norepinephrine drop to unusually low levels, creating a neurochemical environment that allows emotional memories to be reprocessed more gently. This means that dreams may soften the emotional intensity of difficult experiences. The brain revisits memories within a calmer biochemical state, gradually reducing their emotional charge while preserving their informational content. Researchers sometimes refer to REM sleep as overnight therapy. The mind rehearses, reframes, and integrates emotional experiences without the full weight of waking stress hormones, allowing healing to occur in subtle increments. Even strange or fragmented dreams may reflect this quiet integration. What appears chaotic may, in fact, be the brain stitching together emotional themes into forms that feel symbolic rather than literal. Over a lifetime, these nightly cycles accumulate. Each dream contributes to memory consolidation, emotional adjustment, and creative recombination, shaping personality and perspective in ways rarely noticed directly. When you drift into sleep tonight, the dreaming brain will once again move through these intricate patterns, balancing memory, emotion, imagination, and physiology in a choreography refined by millions of years of evolution. Some people wake each morning with detailed recollections of elaborate dream worlds, while others insist they rarely dream at all. In truth, nearly everyone enters REM sleep several times each night, but recall depends heavily on timing and intention. If awakening occurs during or immediately after REM sleep, the neural patterns that supported the dream remain temporarily active, making memory retrieval more likely. When awakening happens later, those patterns fade quickly, dissolving the narrative before it can be encoded. Neurotransmitters play a central role in this process. During REM sleep, levels of serotonin and norepinephrine decrease significantly, creating a biochemical state that supports vivid imagery but does not favor long-term memory storage. When waking consciousness returns and neurotransmitter levels shift, the fragile architecture of the dream often collapses. What remains may be only a feeling, a faint emotional residue without clear imagery. Cultural interpretations of dreams vary widely. In some traditions, dreams are seen as messages from ancestors or divine sources. In others, they are reflections of subconscious processing rather than external communication. Modern neuroscience tends to frame dreams as internally generated simulations, shaped by memory, emotion, and predictive modeling. The brain continuously anticipates possible futures, and dreaming may be one arena where those simulations unfold freely. Yet even within scientific understanding, mystery remains. Why certain images recur across individuals and cultures is not fully explained, though shared evolutionary pressures and common human experiences likely shape similar symbolic themes. Dreams of water, falling, flying, or losing one's way may reflect deeply embedded survival concerns and emotional archetypes that transcend language and geography. Over centuries, artists and philosophers have described dreams as alternate realities that reveal hidden truths. While science grounds dreams in neural circuitry, it does not diminish their emotional depth or creative influence. The dreaming brain is not idle. It is active, adaptive, and engaged in processes that strengthen learning, regulate mood, and expand imagination while the body lies still in darkness. Modern life has subtly altered the architecture of sleep. Artificial light, especially blue light emitted from screens, suppresses melatonin production, delaying the natural descent into deeper sleep stages where REM cycles emerge most vividly. When REM sleep is shortened repeatedly, dream recall may decrease and emotional processing can become less efficient. The brain still attempts to regulate itself, but the cycles grow compressed, sometimes shifting REM later into the night. Interestingly, when individuals are deprived of REM sleep and then allowed to rest fully, the brain often compensates with REM rebound, entering the dreaming state more quickly and remaining there longer than usual. False awakenings add another layer to the dreaming experience. In these moments, a person believes they have woken up, sometimes beginning morning routines within the dream itself, only to realize later that they are still asleep. This phenomenon reflects the brain's ability to simulate waking consciousness. The mind constructs a convincing version of reality while still operating within the REM state, blurring the boundary between internal and external perception. The line between dream and wakefulness is not a sharp division, but a gradient. Brain activity shifts gradually, and consciousness can drift between layers rather than switching instantly from one state to another. Throughout the night, the brain cycles between deep slow-wave sleep and REM sleep approximately 4 to 6 times. Early cycles contain more deep sleep, while later cycles lengthen in REM duration, often producing the most elaborate dreams before morning. These late-night dreams can feel cinematic, rich in narrative and detail, because REM periods extend longer, allowing the mind to sustain complex imagery without interruption. Even when we do not remember them, dreams leave subtle traces. Emotional tone upon waking may reflect processing that occurred overnight, shaping mood in ways that feel spontaneous but arise from hidden cognitive work. As the body rests, neural networks quietly recalibrate, strengthening connections, pruning excess pathways, and reorganizing experience into coherent patterns that prepare the mind for another day. Long before modern humans walked beneath artificial light, dreaming was already embedded in the architecture of the brain. REM-like sleep has been observed in mammals and even some birds, suggesting that the mechanisms behind dreaming evolved far earlier than language or written thought. From an evolutionary perspective, dreaming may have offered a survival advantage. By simulating threatening situations, being chased, falling, losing one's way, the brain could rehearse responses without exposing the body to real danger. This theory, sometimes called the threat simulation hypothesis, proposes that dreams function as a virtual training ground. The mind practices perception and reaction in a safe internal environment while the body remains protected by sleep paralysis. Other scientists suggest that dreaming evolved primarily for memory consolidation and emotional adaptation, with vivid imagery emerging as a byproduct of neural reorganization occurring during the REM cycles. Regardless of its original function, dreaming persisted across species and centuries. The brain invests considerable energy in REM sleep, implying that this state fulfills essential biological roles rather than being an accidental side effect. The hyper-real quality of some dreams arises from the intensity of emotional circuitry combined with vivid visual activation. Because logical oversight is reduced, the mind accepts sensory input without critique, amplifying immersion. In waking life, perception is filtered by expectations and rational frameworks. In dreams, those filters loosen, allowing imagination to shape environments that feel tangible, textured, and immediate despite their internal origin. The brain does not distinguish sharply between imagined and perceived experience at the neural level. Similar regions activate whether we picture a face internally or see it in front of us, which helps explain the realism of dream encounters. Yet even in the most vivid dream, a subtle instability remains. Scenes shift without clear transitions, geography bends, and identity dissolves into fluid narrative threads that weave memory and invention together. Across millions of years, this nightly simulation system refined itself, becoming not only a mechanism for adaptation, but also a source of creativity, emotional balance, and the quiet reshaping of identity. And now, after tracing neural currents and ancient evolution, after moving through nightmares and memory and imagination, we return to the simple image of a sleeping mind, resting quietly beneath the surface of consciousness. Inside the darkness behind closed eyes, electrical signals continue their silent choreography. Networks pulse softly, replaying fragments of experience, weaving emotion into pattern, shaping the unseen architecture of who you are becoming. Dreams are not interruptions of reality. They are extensions of it, another layer of awareness, unfolding without light, without gravity, without the weight of physical movement. While your body lies still, the mind drifts across landscapes built from memory and possibility. Faces appear, dissolve, and reform. Places shift gently, as if shaped by water rather than stone. The same brain that guides speech and motion during the day now turns inward, tending to its own circuitry, adjusting connections in ways too subtle to feel yet powerful, enough to influence tomorrow's thoughts. There is something comforting in knowing that even in sleep, nothing is idle. The mind does not go dark. It glows quietly, reorganizing experience beneath layers of rest. Across the world tonight, countless others are entering their own dreamscapes, each brain constructing private universes stitched from memory, emotion, and imagination. No two dreams are identical, yet the architecture behind them is shared, a design shaped by evolution, refined across generations, carried silently within the human nervous system. And as you prepare to drift, you can imagine that gentle neural rhythm beginning to shift, thoughts loosening their edges, awareness softening into something quieter. Breathing slows, muscles release. The boundary between waking and dreaming grows thin, not as a sharp line, but as a gradual blending of states. Soon, imagery may begin to flicker faintly at the edge of perception, small fragments forming and dissolving like clouds rearranging themselves against a darkened sky. You do not need to control where the mind travels. The dreaming system has been refined over millions of years. It knows how to carry you safely through its shifting landscapes. Emotions will be softened, memories gently reorganized, ideas quietly recombined into forms that may reveal themselves later as insight or calm. And beneath it all, the body rests in steady balance, heart beating, lungs rising and falling, cells repairing and renewing in the background of unconscious thought. Dreams will come and go without announcement, sometimes vivid, sometimes faint, sometimes remembered, sometimes dissolving before morning light. But whether recalled or forgotten, Each one participates in the quiet maintenance of your inner world, shaping perception in ways that feel effortless. The mind, even in sleep, remains an active landscape dynamic, adaptive, luminous in its own silent way. And now, as this exploration settles, you can allow your thoughts to become less defined, less urgent, less structured. There is nowhere else to travel tonight. The journey inward requires no map, no effort, only permission to drift. So let the dreaming mind do what it has always done, quietly, patiently, endlessly, while you rest within its gentle and ancient design.